Everybody, my name is David Britt. I'm your instructor for the upcoming course, and I just wanted to say hello. One of the things you'll find out about me if you haven't had me in a class before is I am a travel junkie. See a lot of the places where I visit and where I have visited, and I like to share those with you as well as give you some tips about the course. So, first of all, I just wanted to welcome you, and I'm welcoming you today from Taipei, Taiwan, and behind me is the General Chiang Kai-shek Memorial. Now, Chiang Kai-shek was the leader of the Chinese nationalists, who they were defeated by Chairman Mao and the communists back in, my history is escaping me, but it was right after World War II. And so this is in the island. This is on the island of Taiwan. And just some great architecture here. Behind me is, again, the memorial to Chiang Kai-shek. Over here is, I think that's the National Theater. And over here is another museum. And so I just like to get out and to shoot these videos from wherever I happen to be in the world. And what you'll see each week will be, some of them will be current, some of them will be from a prior term. But every week I do like to share some of my travels with you. And so what I wanted to do right now is just to give you some tips on what I expect in the class. Now, one of the frustrations that I had as a student was that each professor is different, and thank God they are. I mean, don't expect in this degree program for every professor to be exactly alike. How boring would that be, right? And particularly after you have me, you're going to go, oh, I don't want another one like him. But we're all different. And so what I wanted to do was to share with you some of the things that I value. I always wish that a professor would do that with me, and I wouldn't have to find out on my own. So what I'm going to do is tell you the things that I value, and hopefully you'll be able to replicate those as you go through the class. First things first, I do not send out a lot of emails. I do that the first part of the class, but after that, I don't send out many at all. But I do provide a lot of announcements, and so hear me on this. Every single time you log into the course, make sure that you look at the announcements that I have on the home page of the course, because I'll share these videos there. I'll share some other tips. I'll try not to waste your time. I've even been known to put in an extra credit problem in the announcements just to see who's actually looking at the videos. So the key message is every single time you log into the course, make sure that you take a look at the announcements to see if there's an announcement in there that I just added. There'll probably be 5 or 6 in there at the start of the class, and by the end of the class, there will probably be about 30 in there. So make sure that you look at that, and then also make sure that you look every Monday morning, because I will post a video in there that will review the prior week's lesson and then preview the upcoming week's lesson for you. It is hot out here today, so sorry if I look like I'm hot. I actually am. So let's talk about what I expect and some of the things that I value in courses. Let's start off talking about papers, assignments, and applications. Every single paper that you write for me, that's an assignment, that's an application, or any other form that requires you to write a paper, needs to have this. Now hear me on this. It needs to have a cover page. It needs to have an introduction heading and an introduction section. It needs to have body headings in the paper. It needs to have content under those headings. It needs to have a conclusion heading, and it needs to have conclusion content that summarizes the key points of your paper. And then it needs to have a reference page that will highlight all the sources that you used in your paper. Every single paper needs to have that. I'm amazed sometimes. I'll make that statement at the start of a class, and then the first paper I get from students is not in the form of cover page, introduction, body headings, conclusion. And so you lose points right off the bat. Now, I don't do this because I'm this hardcore academic. I'm not. I'm a business person who happens to be teaching, okay? And so I do this because as a business person, as a business leader in the past, if I couldn't figure out what a person who worked for me was asking me to do, I found that I threw their stuff in the trash pretty quickly. I just didn't have time. And so it's a really good way to organize the things that you're looking for, okay? And so make sure that every single paper that you write for me follows that format. Also, every single paper that you write for me needs to be double-spaced. That's the cover page, the body headings, the references. Every single thing needs to be double-spaced, all right? And then all the paragraphs that you use need to be indented. Sometimes in today's world of blogs and Facebook posts and everything else, people forget that paragraphs need to be indented. So make sure that you indent all paragraphs and that the paragraph indents are around 1/2 inch, okay? And so make sure that that happens. All right. Now here's some of the key parts of the paper that's really important. I do not want you to write your papers in first person, meaning I, we, you. Even if I ask you, now hear me on this, even if I ask you for your opinion on something, you need to write it in third person, not in first person. Because papers are informational. Papers can tend to be informational. Discussion boards are conversational. Papers are not conversational. You're not in a conversation with someone where you can use I, we, you, us, and all those other things. So make sure that all of your papers do not have I, we, you, us, those types of things. They need to be in third person. Now, there's only one exception. And that exception is if I ask you to write that paper about you, okay? So if the paper is specifically about you, then you can write it in first person. And in that case, I'll typically tell you ahead of time it's okay to write that paper in first person, okay? So make sure that that happens. Make sure that you write in third person, not in first person, all right? So those are papers. I'll give you several examples, by the way, in several videos. I'll give you some examples in the doc sharing, and so make sure that you take a look at those because I've gone to some great lengths to make sure that you are really focused on that. All right? Let's talk about discussion boards. Discussion boards are very important in an online class, and here's the reason. You probably remember in some of your undergraduate courses, if you took some on ground, or even some of your graduate courses, if this is a graduate program for you, and you had a professor who said, okay, what I want you to do is put your desks in a circle and talk about this particular question. Well, discussion boards in an online format are the equivalent of put your desks in a circle and talk about this, okay? And so discussion boards are very, very important in online classes. So make sure that you take discussion boards seriously. They're not something that you just put a brief sentence or two in. Discussion boards give you an opportunity to relay some of your research and to relay some of your experience. Now, some of these can be written in first person, so that's the big difference. Discussion boards, conversational. Papers, informational, all right? And so whenever you do a discussion board, I want you to follow this three-step process. If you do this, it becomes second nature to you, and it'll be much easier for you to communicate, and it'll be much easier for people who read them to follow along. So follow this three-step process in discussion boards, all right? The first thing that you should do is state your theory or your idea. Typically, I'll ask you a question, and I want you to provide an answer. Well, that's your theory. You're going to state your theory or your idea, step one. Step two is support your theory or idea with research, all right? You know, a lot of people will give opinions without any support behind them, and you just look silly. It looks like a Facebook post that somebody just shared that has no basis in fact and or rhyme or reason. So the second step, after you state your theory, step one, the second step is support your theory with research. And then the third and final step is to apply your theory, apply your ideas with examples. And this is where you can include your personal experience and those types of things as well. So, three-step process for discussion boards. State your theory or idea, step one. Step two, support your idea with research. Step three, apply with examples. All right, so if you get used to that rhythm, discussion boards will be much more meaningful for you. One of the key things that I see sometimes in discussion boards is people let their example overtake their main theory. Examples support your theory, they don't become your theory, okay? So a lot of people will start off their discussion board post with an example. Don't do that. You start it off with your theory. You support your theory, and then you provide examples to help apply the theory, all right? Hear me on this. First post for discussion boards, you're required to have one initial post, and then you're required to have two response posts to other students' posts, all right? Your initial post is due on Friday each week. If you don't post it on Friday, you're going to have points taken off, all right? So make sure that your first post is by Friday, and then subsequent posts need to be in by 11:59 p.m. On Sunday night, all right? Every single, Rascal Rabbit, Every single thing that you do in the class outside of that initial discussion board post is due on Sunday night by 11:59. If you have a quiz in the class that you're taking, that has to be taken by Sunday night, 11:59 of that week. If you have an application exercise, if you have anything else, it's due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so just make sure that you do that. And then in discussion boards, make sure that your response posts are substantive. Don't say "I agree" or "great post" or all those type things. Make sure you do things to extend the conversation, and that'll make discussion boards much more meaningful. You can extend the conversation by applying additional research, by asking questions and doing those things as well. Also, in your discussion boards, if you use an external source, which I'm asking you to do, make sure that you format it to proper APA. You'll use an in-text citation, and you also have, gosh, it's hot. You'll also have, sorry about that, you'll also have a reference section right at the bottom of those, okay? So make sure that you do that in discussion boards. And then the final thing I just want to talk about is research, formatting in APA. We use APA in all the courses in this degree program, and then Turnitin. So research needs to be peer-reviewed. Now, what do I mean when I say peer-reviewed? Well, peer-reviewed research is not something that you find by doing a Google search, all right? I heard somebody say this the other day, and I thought it was fantastic. Google is a search engine. It's not a research engine, okay? And so what you need to be able to do is go to the Charleston Southern University online library. Now, I have videos that show you how to access peer-reviewed research, which are journals that are either professional journals or academic journals. Now, think about this. If you and I were going to put together a research project and we wanted to get it published in, let's say, the Journal of Project Management, okay? If we wanted to get that journal article, if we wanted to get our research published, we would have to submit it to that journal, and it would be reviewed by a jury of our peers. And those are people who have expertise in that particular area. And so it has to meet a certain criteria. And so the thought is if it has to go through that level of depth, then it's probably limited in bias. It's probably good research versus something if you and I just decided to put, David and Joe's blog post together. That's just like a Facebook article. So it's not really high quality stuff. And so that's why using the Charleston Southern Online Library is the best way to provide support for your research. So check that out. Make sure that you use the Charleston Southern Online Library for that. I've provided numerous APA helps for you. Those will be videos. I have some things on doc sharing. And we have an ebook in the course on APA. And then Purdue OWL is a great website for APA. I always go to it. It's the thing when I forget something, I'll go there and find the answers to that. So make sure that you use those research sources for formatting of your sources in your paper, okay? Here's another thing that I want you to do is I want you to not use direct quotes, all right? Direct quotes are a lazy way of doing research. Direct quotes mean this: you go find your source and then you just copy paste what somebody else said. I'm not interested in what they said. I'm interested in what you said. Now, I'm interested in what you said with someone else supporting what you said, okay? And so make sure that you don't just get lazy and do direct quotes all the time. The only time you should use direct quotes is when somebody says something in such a way that you cannot adequately paraphrase it, okay? So make sure that you paraphrase. Now, when you paraphrase, you don't just simply swap out a word here or a word there. You need to make sure that you understand their theme, their ideas, and those things, and then put it into your own words. When you do that, it helps me see that you fully understand the research that you're going after, okay? So paraphrase versus use direct quotes. Now, one of the things that we use in this course is a plagiarism tool called Turnitin. And Turnitin will take your paper, you're going to upload it into the Dropbox, and it will provide you a similarity index. Now, a similarity index is something that will see how similar, that's why they call it similarity, right? How similar your paper is to other publications that are out there. And when you use direct quotes, then it's gonna rocket the similarity index off the charts, okay? And so what I want you to do is to focus on paraphrasing. You'll turn this into Turnitin automatically, and it will give you this similarity index. And the similarity index will be anywhere from 0 to 100. I mean, if it's a direct copy of what somebody else did, the similarity index is incredibly high. And so I'll work with you on this, but one of the key things for you to make sure that you are not hitting the plagiarism issue is to make sure that you effectively paraphrase your sources. Now, also remember, even when you paraphrase, you still have to cite your source, all right, because it's somebody else's thought, all right? So that is, let's turn it in. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. Just wanted to give you some hints on the things that I value, and make sure that you look on the announcements, as I said at the start. Make sure you look at the announcements every time you log into the course. Make sure you click on them so you can see my ugly mug. But hopefully some of the things that I tell you will help you approach the class better. And when you approach the class the right way and you're doing the things that I'm talking about, I just bet your grade's going to be better. All right? Have a good time. I look forward to the next few weeks together. And as I said before, you're going to see me in a lot of different locations around the world. I've got a lot of trips planned right now, so there'll be some new ones. There'll be some from prior terms, but again, I just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to welcome you, tell you what I expect, and tell you that I look forward to the next few weeks together. All right? Take care.